Liverpool have just been absolutely demolished by Brighton, and I mean demolished. That side completely tore through every Liverpool defensive aspect that you possibly could think of in the game. They tore through the entire formation, they tore through the back line, they humiliated them at times. And as bad as that is for me to say, I kind of felt that this kind of performance was coming. It happened previously, earlier on in the season. There were numerous times where Liverpool got absolutely humiliated by the likes of Napoli, and they had some humbling moments. But after that, you thought, well, at least we can see where the side's going, at least we can see where they're building towards, and you could see there was an idea of a formation forming. Now, some people could say that, you know, there are some injuries in there which might take that apart, and a couple of players within the team are playing out of position, but broadly, the spine of this side is in place, and it should be playing way better than it did. Brighton completely did a number on Liverpool because they did their research on the side, and they understood exactly where it was that Liverpool wanted to go and read them like a book. Every attack that Liverpool wanted to make, it was purely out of chance that Liverpool got the ball through, and then they were harried off the ball at every opportunity, and I mean every opportunity. The ball goes up to Salah, 2 men on him. The ball goes up to Gakpo, 2 men on him. The ball goes to Trent Alexander-Arnold, he manages to get across him, but there's no one in the box to meet it on the other end. Equally, if you want to go the other way as well, then every time that Brighton went forward, it was open at the back for Liverpool, and I mean every time. And Brighton had numerous shots in the first half. People were joking that it was like 45 chances in the first half. It was near to that. There were so many times where you got to think to yourself, why is it that Liverpool are allowing so many chances? And normally, it's an open game. Now, if you go punch for punch with the team, you have to go punch for punch. You can't just keep getting punched and just keep taking those hits. And that's what Liverpool did in this game. They were not punching back. There was very little bite back in the midfield. And actually, the structure in midfield, again, was massively in question for Liverpool today. These aren't things that I think that Jurgen Klopp or Pep Lynch would be upset about a fan saying. These are obvious observations that Liverpool fans are making. The Liverpool fans today did Brighton, they were as loud as the Brighton fans, and they did the club proud. But the fact that they've travelled 5-6 hours to see that kind of performance, you've got to say it's disappointing at best. There were numerous performances in the side that I thought lacked an edge, or lacked the mentality, but also the knowledge of where they were meant to be within the team. So at one point I felt that Thiago was playing in like a 10 position behind Gakpo, and then you had Oxlade-Chamberlain out on the left and Salah on the right, but they were kind of cutting in. That formation didn't work. It was clearly a 4-2-4 or clearly a 4-4-2, depending on whether they were defending or attacking, but the press never worked. There was no intensity in terms of the press, and Gakpo and Salah didn't know where they were meant to be. On top of that, you also had a midfield that weren't very good at distributing it. So Fabinho wasn't winning the ball back, and when Henderson did get on the ball, really he was just booting it away because there were very few options for him to get towards. So there's frustration there for Liverpool fans as well. On top of that, the back line numerous times had either one fullback too high up or another fullback that was too high up, and it meant that there were just huge gaps in behind. John Matip was getting exploited almost serially. That is meant to be Konaté's back line right now. You'd imagine he would be the A side, despite John Matip being the less experienced defender. And on top of that, there were just numerous times where Alisson was called into action, but also just called into absolute disarray. The fact that in that back line, you can basically see any time that anyone goes forward, Alisson's going to have to come out and get it. He had to head it away numerous times. He almost gave away a penalty if it wasn't for an offside. And Jurgen Klopp will have been pulling his hair out on the sideline. The level of frustration that this Liverpool team will have been feeling out on the pitch was palpable. Like, I could literally see that the players were getting frustrated with what was happening. Now, whether that's because they're frustrated with the other players and they're saying, you're not in the position you're meant to be in, you need to know your position better, or, we need to be doing this better. Sure, there are two different sides to every story, but broadly, they should know where their positions are. Broadly, they should know where they're meant to be out on the pitch. And broadly, the player, at least as fans, especially if I'm sitting high up, I'm meant to have some idea of where the ball's meant to go, how they're meant to play, and within that formation, where they're meant to be. And frankly, they just don't have that right now. So Liverpool fans who travelled today were severely let down, and I'm not saying that's me. I travelled like an hour and a half from London. That's not the same thing. But Brighton also knew exactly what Liverpool were going to do, and it was read so well by De Zerbi. I'm not only saying that, I don't mean even like that they won it in the margins of like the 1-2% here or there, and that it was like, hey, they got to the 50-50s just ahead of Liverpool. It was so much more obvious than that. There was huge swathes of space for them to get into. There were huge opportunities where Alisson or a defender got in, and you could see that the Liverpool players were nervous that they were going to concede another. Not only was it 3-0, it could have been 4, 5, 6, and Liverpool didn't create any meaningful chances. I get that you know, you can look at a shot chart and say who got a shot here, who got a shot there. It's meaningless. Those chances were not meaningful chances for any of the Liverpool players. The frustration for Liverpool fans will have been they were watching that and saying, well, okay, what if you no. There wasn't even any questioning. There wasn't even any shift in the side. And when there were shifts in the team, when 4 subs were brought on at the same time, even then, when the ball was moved around at pace, they were just crowded off the ball, serially crowded off the ball as well. So the frustration for Liverpool and the frustration for the fans around will be that time after time, you can see that there is a plan. But the players don't know it. The players don't know how to act on it. And frankly, I don't think there's confidence in that plan and that coaching right now. Brighton were fantastic. Brighton made huge moves. It was really impressive to see where they were going with the ball, and you can see they're clearly a better footballing side than Liverpool. But that shouldn't mean anything. I'm just going to drop this in here, right? If Brighton can make the signings that Brighton have and play in that way, then there should be no excuse as to why Liverpool can't make the same signings. And if Liverpool have their scouts leaving, if Liverpool have people just basically saying, look, I don't want to be part of this anymore, then there have to be questions asked around that. When Brighton are signing players, when Brighton are playing Liverpool off the park, it's nothing to do with the level of Brighton. It's not that. It's to do with the fact that if other teams in the Premier League can do it, then so can Liverpool. De Zerbi coming in has freshened up the side. I'm not saying we should sack Klopp, but I'm saying De Zerbi coming in has freshened up the side. It's made a big difference, and clearly the players are reacting to that. Why aren't the Liverpool players reacting in the same way? Why is there such dissonance and discord out on the pitch right now? I'd love to know what your thoughts are. It's really frustrating to watch because Brighton have got some of the Liverpool targets in their team. Brighton have got players that you'd say if they played for Liverpool, Liverpool would be at a higher level. And now they're allegedly, pricing Liverpool out of signing them. Why isn't it that Liverpool are signing those players before they go to a Brighton or somewhere else? I'd be interested to know your thoughts. So anyway, I'm going to finish this review inside. It's slightly louder indoors. Liverpool just weren't at the races, and this isn't the first time this happened this season. I tried to make plenty of space for the side to be able to actually make mistakes and evolve and change, and I wanted to say time after time after time, broadly, I think Klopp is going in the right direction. Broadly, I think Pep Linders is doing the right thing. It's hard to stand by those things when you see the players serially making the same mistakes time after time, clearly not understanding what the tactics are, clearly frustrated out on the pitch. Not only that, but you're also just seeing players, they're getting frustrated with each other. Like Robertson takes a throw in and the ball, he just puts his arms by his side and he blatantly just saying, I don't know what you want me to do here. I don't know how you want me to do this. He's trying to attack. He's getting crowded off the ball. His relationship with Oxlade-Chamberlain was almost non-existent today. Oxlade-Chamberlain's position was floating so much he just couldn't quite see where he was meant to be. I imagine that was very frustrating for Ox, who clearly wants to put in a good performance, but it isn't there. On top of that, you then have Brighton putting in fantastic performances, but also just bossing the midfield. There were times where there was so much space between the front line and the midfield, and there were so many times where it was clearly a back six and a front four and no connection between the two, that Liverpool clearly said, okay, we're just going to boot the ball along to a player here. And booting the ball along to a player, frankly, just isn't the solution for a side that is premium. And I'm starting to question whether this side believe they're premium anymore. Clearly, confidence is low. Clearly, there is a point this side has reached where they're going, we're being done a disservice by playing this way, and we are doing ourselves a disservice by not having a formation that we know, by not doing the way that we need to do it. All these frustrating conclusions that I'd imagine that not only Liverpool are coming to, but also the fans are coming to as well. Credit to Liverpool fans, they got behind Liverpool time after time after time today, but they didn't have much to get behind. Brighton were the side in the ascendancy for the full 90 minutes. Keita came on and sure there was a bit of pressing, but when he pressed them there was huge fields of space for them to get into. So Liverpool Liverpool have got some serious training to do. They've got some serious changes to implement. They've got some huge games coming up. You can't see them playing well against Wolves if Wolves have got a solid midfield. And you've got to say, even though Chelsea are at a low ebb right now, Liverpool could be even lower, despite the fact that they sit higher than them in the table. It's not as if the table is really indicative of either team's good form. It's actually just showing that Liverpool are bad right now, and so are Chelsea. There are plenty of truisms that you can trot out, and I like to step around those things. It isn't like two drunks having a fight in the street. It is frustrating to watch. But I'm sort of at a point now where I can't keep reaching for explanations as to why the team is doing this. You can see they've gone away from an old formation. If they're not going to make signings, if they're not going to change the personnel, then they have to play to the team's strengths. And at the moment, I get it. It's like, get out there and go and try this new system. But the new system is clearly not working, and the players aren't playing it, and the players are not enjoying it, and the players aren't into it. Gakpo looked almost lost at times out there. He looked crowded off the ball. He was frustrated, as was Mo Salah. This is Mo Salah we're talking about, who just signed a brand new contract, and Liverpool don't know how to use him right now. Gakpo, who they just said was one of the key players who could play all the way across the line, barely had a touch of the ball. The ball was barely getting to him. Andy Robertson couldn't find him because he doesn't know where he's meant to be positionally. And not only that, but if we're going to play, I know we had injuries in terms of Nunez, and you can list the injuries for Liverpool. So the bench was light and all these kind of things. Even then, this was a good enough team to play better than they played today. And if you have injuries, that should be galvanising the side. It should not be something that demoralises them. They still had a midfield three of Fabinho, Henderson and Thiago, three very experienced players who barely managed the game today. They had a back line of Konate and Matip. Konate is starting for France, or he's on the borderlines of that, and Matip's one of the more experienced Liverpool defenders. Then you've got Andy Robertson, one of the more experienced Liverpool defenders. Alisson, allegedly and most probably the best goalkeeper in the world. Trent Alexander-Arnold had a good game today by this season's standards. But time after time he got dribbled around because he was left out at sea by the other players. They could put the ball around him and put it in space because, guess what? He wasn't connected with the rest of the side because the rest of the side doesn't know where they're meant to be right now, seemingly. I get when you sit two midfielders, but then when you just allow Brighton to just play through you and it's just a 1-2 pass, that's way too simple. The frustration from my part is I can see where the team want to go, but they're not enacting it, they're not playing it properly, and they're not doing it with nearly the passion and the commitment that the team need to do. I'd be interested to know what you guys think in the comments below. It feels like a turning point for me. You can see Klopp was demoralised in the press conference. You can see that the players are demoralised out on the pitch. And if Liverpool are going to drop out of the top four, you would think, okay, well, maybe they'll reboot next season. Maybe this is one of the fallow seasons I talk about. If you're looking to attract a Jude Bellingham and top talent, you've got to say, if Liverpool are in a fight for it right now, top talent does not want to be hung out game after game after game. And one signing does not change that entire team. Clearly, because look at what Cody had today, look at numerous different positions. It's frustrating to be in this position, but at the same time, credit to Brighton. They played Liverpool off the park for the full 90 minutes, and there was no point where Liverpool looked like the better team. I enjoyed Harvey Elliott. I thought Harvey Elliott really tried and got into good positions, had good interplay. I enjoyed Keita. I thought he pressed really well. But these are individual things which are easily passed around. It has to be an intense team performance, and so far it hasn't been at any point for Liverpool this season. You've seen glints of it, but not nearly enough. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd be interested to know your thoughts from the people watching on TV, what the comments were, what your feelings were at home. But I watched the full 90 in the stadium, and I'm far from impressed. I still have belief in Jurgen Klopp and this side, but at the moment, it's being tested as to what I can say on this channel. Hope you guys leave a comment below. If you've not already subscribed, hit that button. There's probably plenty more analysis to come. I hope you stick around and have a good evening. Much love. Bye.